Thank you all. I think we had a pretty productive week 3, just a lot of committee work. I was glad to be able to get some of my legislative bills through this week. As first week I've actually run anything through committee, but I was able today to do work on TANF dollars, being able to get TANF to mothers who may not have children in the home already that are pregnant. That was, I think, a big win to get that. We got to get it all to the finish line. And then we also, the Choosing Childbirth, which some of you all have written on and looked in the past, that has underperformed. It's something that I care deeply about actually getting those dollars to the intended purposes. So working with the Department of Health and others, trying to get more grant supervising entities and more direct contact with the Department of Health and those entities to be able to get help out to pregnant mothers. So those are just 2 today that are top of mind. Proud of the work that Senator Pugh has advanced through committee on his education package, pay, mentorship, and just the various things that he's advanced. I think he's doing an excellent job leading us on education policy. So look forward to any questions you all may have.
So the House passed some education stuff of their own. Is that coming over like a freight train or a hand cart to the Senate?
I wasn't aware. Tell me what they passed. No, they passed it, 75 votes on the 1935 and 778 or so on the 2775 part. So it came out of there with a lot of speed. We're going to treat it like a normal bill right now. We've still got a lot of members with a lot of questions. Excited that the House has advanced school choice. That was an impediment before. But we've still got a lot to digest on the mechanics of both bills.
Do you have any idea the financial impact or how many more women might have access to TANF now that those requirements might be changed?
I did have that in my folder, some stuff that DHS had put together. I was more focused on the principle and the philosophy behind it, but I can get you back some numbers of who is served now and how many more they think would be served. I don't have that answer off the top of my head.
That would be great. I also wonder if there's an interest this session in expanding programs for families, especially after the abortion ban. And I'm curious, with this emphasis on savings and tax cuts, what kind of money might be available to expand programs and kind of what wiggle room there might be to invest dollars in extra programs or new programs?
Well, there's some opportunity. The TANF deal in particular, I know you're talking more globally, but the TANF deal in particular, that's all federal dollars. But we determined we're the gatekeepers on it. And so we wanted to make sure that we valued life and recognized life from conception there. I think that we've put a high priority on it. A couple of years ago, I amended the Choosing Childbirth Act to include maternal and infant mortality and put more money behind it. We've put to date $10 million in it, but they've only put out 1.8 out the door. And so I'm trying to get those purse strings loosened a little bit so we can get the dollars to the intended recipients. And there's just overall, when Dobbs passed, many of us, including myself, cheered it, but we also realized that we need to step up in making sure that we fully support pregnant mothers and families. And so we're there. The dollar amount, we're still trying to compile all the different numbers that are floating around on every bill that's come through committee. I don't have a solid dollar amount, but I can tell you it is a priority of the Senate, and we will put every effort to try to be able to support families.
Yeah, there's one bill in particular, it's Senate Bill 907, that would create a family representation program for kids and parents to have adequate legal representation during child welfare proceedings. And I've heard a lot about how much that's needed, but I think the full implementation price tag statewide would be like $20 million.
Okay.
So a little bit of a hefty price tag.
Who's the author? I'm not familiar with it. Okay.
And there's a House companion bill by Lawson.
Okay.
So.
Great. Senator Racino has done amazing work in the DHS space. He's somebody that I have full confidence in that arena. He and I did that prior when I was the subcommittee vice chair back when Senator David was the chair. I was integral in the Pinnacle plan and getting that started. So I keep my eye on it, but I really keep my eye on it through Racino right now. And he has a compassion and is passionate about that issue. So I wasn't aware of that particular bill, but I am aware of his passion in that arena. So to the extent that we can afford it, and it's something that it's definitely needed. When we talk with families who are before the court, it's a agonizing experience, and we've had to help so many people, especially in the foster care space, that just to get the ball rolling, and it takes DAs, judges. Sometimes cost is involved. Sometimes if there's any sexual exploitation, the care center here in the city or other ones like that around the state are involved. So it is a experience that's never going to be fun, but it's got to be something that we got to make sure families are well represented.
Any update on tax reform?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We've got groups meeting with the House and the governor. I don't have anything to report of that other than the meetings are going on.
I know Senator Thompson's more the numbers and dollars guy, but you're pretty aware of state finances as well. Can we afford to do some sort of tax reform or tax cut this year, and also give teachers a pay raise, and also do some sort of school choice? Is there money for all of that?
So that's something we're trying to keep our eye on. We're very much, most of us who were out here in 2017 and 18 don't want to ever have a repeat of that. And so we're walking cautiously and judiciously as we move down the road, trying to have Senator Thompson and I look at numbers daily. Yes, he can spit them off much quicker. There's a reason I told Mike Schultz I didn't want to be the appropriations chair, I wanted to be the floor leader. But it's extremely important, and where we put our dollars shows our priorities. And we're looking at recurring expenses, and you start looking at the $3.2 billion surplus. That's the reason I say almost every week, not all that surplus is created equal. You have to have some in the rainy day. That's a little over $1 billion there. We have 286 in the FMAP savings account. That's intended to, take the ebb and flow out of that. And then we have some in the oil and gas stabilization fund that is intended to and we're starting to see oil and gas go down off even the estimates. That's intended for that, to stabilize the budget. We shouldn't use those as just piggy banks to go do whatever we want. So whatever by the end of April, May, we will have a much better picture of all the spending priorities that have made it through committees, and then we'll have to start winnowing down.
I just had a question on one of your bills. It's 1103.
Uh-huh.
Just explain kind of what that bill would do.
Yeah, the most important part of that is performance-based rating. There's another component. URI really showed some weaknesses in the grid around this region. The SPP performed better than Southwest Power Pool, performed better than many throughout the country. You saw the problems in Texas. We didn't go without some problems of our own, exposed some weaknesses, so we have some increased storage requirements in that. So you have a solid source of fuel to be able to power those plants, and so we can have electricity reliably. And then the PBR part has been done in Arkansas and several other states to allow rates to be more stable. So right now you have to wait for the case, and that could be 4 or 5 years. This just would put the price much more responsive to the market. They still have to go before the Corporation Commission to get anything improved. But right now what we see, typically if you graph the utility prices, you'll see a steady line and then it'll bump, and then a steady line, it plateaus and bump. This would just hopefully smooth that out so the consumers aren't hit with a much higher bill all of a sudden. It's a smooth path of cost recoupment. And so we're still negotiating. I had a meeting with all the identifiable stakeholders. I'm sure we accidentally left some out, but we met with a multitude of people with various ideas on it. That bill also has the right of first refusal in it. That's something I will be taking out of the bill.
That was to OG&E, right? Was that right of first refusal to OG&E?
It's for the incumbent utilities. So AEP, PSO, and then OG&E here. and then there's other incumbent utilities, but those are the two major players.
Why are you taking that out?
It wasn't something that was really big for me anyway, and then Senator Paxton has a bill that has that same language, so I thought if that bill may advance, why do I have to have it in my bill?
Yeah. One of the things on the rates, so basically, like kind of like you were saying now, the rates would go plateau, then really spike, then plateau, then really spike. This would increase just a little bit.
Much more gradually.
And would they have to go to, like, say, each low gradual increase, would that have to go before the corporation?
Yeah, anything that was a rate increase, they'd have to go before, and it'd be mandated to go before them once a year to review all their books.
Do you have any interest in, excuse me, the Aero Group, Mike Boyd, I think is his name, basically like deregulation of the market and allowing?
You know, I've met with the groups representing them, not this year, but probably maybe in last year or the year before. I think the experience in Texas really deflated any momentum they had on that here politically. So I haven't pursued that.
I've only seen a press release this year.
Okay, yeah.
And I think maybe it's Martinez or somebody from the House has a bill, I can't remember, but they threw it in. So I didn't expect any, big movement, but, they're still out there.
And the PBR, just one other thing, that's been allowed with the gas utilities for quite some time now. And there hasn't been a clamoring to get rid of that. And so that's one of the reasons I got kind of interested in it. Trying to get more information on what happened in Arkansas. You hear, the proponents of it say it's really steadied it. The opponents say that it's increased. But when you start looking at the increase, it's really based on the base rate on the fuel. Fuel's increased everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get more facts on it. But I believe in that process and trying to get to that PBR. Okay.
Any update on the Veterans situation, Veterans Commission?
We have, Senator Stanley and I have talked a lot about just holding back on confirmations right now until the dust settles a little bit. Been talking to the governor about some of the enunciated concerns that the AG has had, and we're having dialogue on it, but we're not making any rash decisions there.
You aware that just today one of them resigned, one of the at-large resigned,
I-
and the governor appointed one of the guys that was under scrutiny to the at-large position, so kind of...
I was aware of the first part. I was not aware of the second part.
So,
The chairman, Robert Ballin, he moved him over.
Oh,
from
okay.
the Medal of Honor,
Purple
or
Heart.
Purple Heart, to an at-large.
Okay.
so that kind of alleviates that
Yeah.
portion, I
So
think.
then, now there's only 2 in question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So maybe he'll just shift it all so that we don't have to worry about it.
no, that would be a good outcome. I want to make sure that we follow the law on it, and so we've voiced, hey, we need to have these lists, and I know the governor solicited those before or recently, and so that makes sense. I mean, before the commission had 5 that were pretty solid, nodding question that I thought you can have a quorum, you can do business. My big concern is if we put money over to the Salas Health Center, which it's frustrating that it has to happen, but it does have to happen. That you had a board vote and then it would be invalidated by a court at some future date because you had invalid board members casting a vote. And so I knew the first part because Senator McCourtney had told me that the guy who was from his district had stepped down. I did not know the other part.
Would that emergency declaration for the Salsa, would that have to go through, would you all have to vote on that appropriation?
I'm sorry.
Would the Senate have to vote on like that emergency thing for that emergency $21 million change? Or
Oh yeah,
whatever?
that'd be
That would go
appropriated
through,
dollars.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that would most likely be a JCAB. I mean, there's no agreement on that. I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but the 21.7, yes, that would definitely have to come through the legislature.
Yeah.
Why hasn't the legislature made the supplemental appropriation for the state election board yet? For the March election? I mean, the election board told me they have money, but when they were speaking in budget hearings, before session started, they seemed to express a sense of urgency, like, hey, we need some extra money to put on this election.
They'll get it post haste. It's just not this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you for or against SQ 820?
I'm against SQ 820. I said that at the state chamber forum or the city forum. I just don't think it's kind of a farce that we don't already have recreational, and it's when I talk to policymakers around the country, when they're looking at perhaps doing medical, they come and say, "What did you all do so wrong?" Not, "Hey, how do we do it right?" So I'll be voting no, but we'll respect the will of the voters, whichever way they go. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.